Hey, on the podcast today, we have my good friend JP Scheffler. Welcome, JP.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Awesome. Now, JP, we got to know each other through the Dungeons and Dragons community and started gaming together some years ago. And you have a unique background in gaming. How did you get into it?
Honest to goodness, how I actually got into D&D and actual gaming was there was a friend of mine called Forrest, whose last name I don't remember today, but he came to me and says, "Hey, dude, you speak English, right? Here, teach me how to do this." I'm a French Canadian boy, so spoke French and was the one guy on the town who spoke English, so I was given D&D books to teach some of the other kids to play. So that's how I started, and it's a love affair that is now going over 30 years. Holy crap, 30 years.
So where'd you grow up?
I grew up in the suburbs of Montreal in Canada, all the way up over there in the cold and the snow, where you have some time to stay by yourself and, get ready for some D&D, really. But I was always kind of big into, storytelling and, reading a lot. And that really was what got me into, one led me into the other. Hey, what do you mean? I can actually play the story? What? That's crazy. Of course, I was hooked at that point, so still am.
So you've done player as well as DM over the years. Do you primarily stick with the Dungeons and Dragons systems, the various formats, or have you branched out into other systems?
Oh, I mean, I've played quite a lot. Recently it's almost all D&D, various incarnation. But for about 10 years during the 90s, I snubbed D&D. I just didn't play it. I consider it to be like the worst system that was out there. I mean, back in the 90s, the early 90s, you had all the World of Darkness that came out, Vampire, the Werewolves. You had other games I loved to play later in the decades were, Legend of the Five Rings came out. There was 7C that came out also around that time. And I really loved those games. I love the fact that, that you can create the character that you wanted, and, your motivation wasn't just, I remember, for example, the first thing I said when I started building a vampire character was, "What do you mean I can start a character that's rich to start? What? I'm not just going around just randomly killing people to take their stuff and get more money. I don't have to do that." Today it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but it was true. It was really funny. It was something I really, really was looking for at the time, and I got to do that. So I did play rich characters.
So do you have a preference, DMing or playing?
I would lie if I'd say no. I much prefer DMing. Basically, it's kind of a nerd thing to do. I love to tell a story. I love to craft a story and then kind of see it evolve, or in many cases devolve, when I send some players into it. But still, I really love that. And, now most of what I do is writing. I write a lot. So, it's a lot easier to be able to write and then to GM than it is to just play. Though, that being said, I did manage to play quite a lot over the years. Joined some organized play campaigns like Living Greyhawk in the Day, then Pathfinder Society, and more recently, where we met, I think it was the Adventure League here in Nashville, and I got to play a fair amount of that. So, I still love the GM better. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the organized play of the Adventure League. I thought it was when they brought out 5th edition D&D, and they had a set schedule that you could plan ahead for the adventures. and have set places where you can go and register online. I thought it was a happy medium of allowing technology to enter the game, but you still have that face-to-face time with other players in the area.
Yeah, that's one of the big things that I think a lot of campaigns they've all kind of played with it. I mean, Pathfinder Society was the same. Adventure League had some good seasons and some not so good ones. But you're right. I mean, it's a great way that the guy who's always the GM can sit down and play, and like myself, I can just sit down and play. And I also joined some other organized play campaigns where I am not DMing these campaigns. These are my play campaigns. For example, I mentioned Legend of the Five Rings before. Well, I joined a couple years ago the Legend of the Five Rings, the organized play, the Heroes of Rokugan, and well, I am not GMing those. I am not writing for those. Those are hard limits I put myself. I only play for that. The same with the Arcanus. I don't want to write and I don't want to GM. These are my play campaign. D&D, yeah, I could kind of do a bit of both. Those other two, they're play.
Being a seasoned game master, how would you go from becoming a mediocre game master to a better one that the players are very engaged with?
Well, I'll tell you about my own story. I mean, I was a pretty mediocre one for the longest time. I wanted to play, but I was terrible at it. And what to me allowed me to kind of realize and grow in style was, first off, reading a lot about GMing style and campaign style, and then really going out and doing other things. I mean, we talked about that before, but going out for me and playing Vampire, a game where most of the time you're kind of in the same town with mostly the same cast of NPCs, and just a lot of the politics. I mean, I hated having to run these endless dungeons. I bored myself running those. After 3 rooms, my eyes were glazing over, and I was the GM. I mean, that's never good when your GM is like, oh crap, you guys have got to get to the end. Come on. I mean, these are just the goon encounters. I don't want to play those. So playing other systems, playing with other GMs helped me greatly to go, oh, I like what this guy does. I like what this guy does. I don't like this. I don't like it when, the guy tries to do, say, for example, one of the guys I played with was really the king of the funny voices. I mean, every NPC had a unique voice. It was great, when you started off, but after a while, it kind of got on your nerves. I mean, it's like, so, especially when you would have like these conversations with himself, it sounded almost like an old Jerry Lewis skit. Right there, what's going on? Oh, what's going on? I mean, that guy was pretty good. It's like, don't do too many accents or don't make them so strong that you can't understand them. With another GM, he was very much into playing completely off the cuff. So he would never prepare anything. I remember when I first played with him, and he's like, yeah, don't worry, I'm not planning anything. My jaw fell. I was like freaking out, going, how the heck is he going to go and do that? Nope. He had a plan behind those crazy eyes of his, and it turned out to be pretty good. So I'm like, well, maybe I can not plan everything. So the long and the short of how can you go from being mediocre is play the game, but don't always play with the same people. That really will help you.
Did you see a big difference in the strategy, using this strategy with vintage games as opposed to modern gaming techniques?
Not really. I mean, you can play whatever. I mean, you could role play Monopoly if you wanted to. Please don't. But I mean, whatever the game you play with, the playing with different people forces you to adapt your playing style to a certain extent and taking different views on the game and different aspects of what we're trying to do. So I mean, it's not just oh well, Bob is going to be the fighter, Tim's going to be the cleric, and Rob's going to be the rogue. No, it's a different. You play with different people. That's one of the things, for example, I really like about organized play. You have to play with different people. So your funny shtick, could be funny with with the guys you always play with, but then when you get to a larger group and you see a couple of people go, dude, that's not funny. You have to adapt and, either tone it down, change the shtick a little bit, or something like that. So does it change with new system or old system? Not really. I mean, the advice does hold. At some point you're going to get to be a good GM. I hope. and when you do, I mean, whether you're playing some, first edition D&D, or you're playing fifth edition, or you're playing whatever the newest game system that there is out there, the basics are still the same. It's always a character-driven story going on, whether the game focuses on the NPCs or on the characters. People are driving something to happen. So the underlying, you can apply to all of them. And at the same time, I mean, you can read stuff, and I'll admit, I do still go back and read creative campaigning for D&D. It was one of the old second edition blue books that really helped me define my style of GMing, my style of play. And I mean, that book is, if you can get it. It's really worth whatever couple of bucks it might be worth today as a PDF. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Now, as a game master, do you think that there's something like a Cardinal Sin that would be that you could advise other game masters to stay away from?
A Cardinal Sin. If I have to answer that one, yes, there is one. As the GM, I mean, I like reading, stuff on Reddit and on, other platforms where, like, RPG Stack Exchange, where people are giving each other advice on GMing. But to me, there's one, is that you, the GM, are also a player. So you have to enjoy the game as well. Whatever enjoy means to you. Some likes to, be antagonistic with their players, and, it's the GM and their NPCs versus the party, and others are very, cooperative. Whatever you do when you're running a game, especially a campaign, something more long-term than just, we meet at a con, we'll play for 4 hours, then we'll each go our way and never see each other. When you're running an actual campaign, you as a GM want to have fun as well. Whatever fun that is. Maybe once in a while you beat up your characters, your players. That's fine. Other times you like to see them squirm, and other times you like to see them triumph. That's fine. But you enjoy the game. I mean, too many times, how often have you heard the following story? All right, so yeah, I joined the D&D group. We had a great time. I mean, the game was great. The players loved it. And then the GM just kind of sent out an email last week saying he was burned out and he didn't want to run it anymore. So why did it happen? Well, he didn't say. Well, did you guys just fight every hooks? Well, yeah, we were pretty much running our own thing and really ignored what he was doing. Well, the Cardinal Sin is, have fun yourself too. Whatever form that is, and, it's D&D, so sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose. That's fine. But enjoy the game. Enjoy playing. Do it for fun. mean, after all, I mean, when the GM shows up at the table for a 4-hour game, chances are he's put at least 16 hours into it. I make a quick math of at least 4 times. So we play 4 hours. The GM's been either reading, looking at stuff for at least 16 hours. So that's your time. That's your life. You don't want to be there to just do stuff you hate. So enjoy it.
And we met in real life. We gamed together in real life. We're both social people. Like you said, we bounced around to different tables, played in different groups. This situation that we're in right now, we're all self-quarantined.
Yeah.
How have your gaming habits changed during this? What are you doing?
Well, to be very honest, my gaming has actually gone up since the quarantine started. Mostly because most of the games have gone online. So rather than gathering up, we meet online. So I mean, I have a most Monday night game. That's the right way to put it. Most Monday night game of Legend of the Five Rings. I have 2 games on Wednesday nights and so on. How that changed? Well, obviously you can't just go, just roll out a map on the, on your kitchen table or whatever at the local store, and just say, hey, there's my D&D game. Now you have to, you move online. How you move online? Well, Roll20 is a big factor of mine. I mean, I'm definitely thinking I'm going to get the subscription for at least for the next 2 or 3 months, just because I'm using it so much now. There's also Discord channels that have dice bots, and some games are just completely on Discord, just a voice channel on Discord. So with the quarantine and people having to stay away from each other, rather than be able to meet face to face, you go online. A couple years ago, it would have been like the death of all gamers. Would just be found somewhere just on our couches, just covered in spider webs. But now we can just get online. I mean, tonight, hey, I want to go get a game. Hey, let me hit one of the many Discord channels I'm on and say, hey, let's see what's going on. Well, no, I don't want to join that game. But actually, I could actually do that. I mean, that's one of the fun things that we can do now. I mean, I even remember the first time I played a serious game online was 2008, and that was pretty funny. So I was 2,000 miles from the main table, which was run by some friends of mine in Quebec City, and every time there was a fight, we used MSN Messenger, now defunct, but we used MSN Messenger, and every time there was a fight, they would turn on the camera, move the camera close to the miniatures so I would see where things were, and then go, okay, have you seen this? Yes? Okay, we're going to cut you off again, because there was not enough bandwidth to go around.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's great. Now, I know that they have virtual dice rolls. For us personally, we like the tactical feel of rolling dice on the table. What's your choice? Do you prefer digital or rolling physical dice?
There's something to be said about rolling dice, especially when you say the word, I cast fireball, and then you grab that handful of dice in your hands and you just slowly massage them and then they drop on the table and scatter around. There is something it's hard to beat that. Now, having said that, since I do most of the GMing, it's definitely very convenient, and in a lot of instances faster for me to just go on Dice Roller and say, hey, give me 8d6, and then it'll roll it for me. So there's something to be said about that. And if I have an actual choice, yeah, I would like to have, whenever I can, I roll them in my hands. I don't use my phone and just here's my dice, you know. But we're in a game where, hey, just use the dice roller. It's faster. I let my players choose the method they like best. Some of the old guys like me are not as, tech savvy or don't trust that random number generator. With reason, by the way, because when it starts being terrible, it sucks. And it sucks big, big time. So, in short, the answer is, I can go either way.
And any other platforms that you have familiarity with?
Well, I mean, the two big ones, right now that I use mostly are Roll20. So it's Roll20.net and Discord. But in the past, I used Map Tool, which I really enjoyed. It had some really nice features to it. The problem for me running with that was just a question of my firewall. It didn't like my firewall, so that's a big ixnay. I've seen other people that there should be one coming up by I think D&D Beyond is going to be coming out with one that's another one we're waiting on to see how good or bad it's going to be. So it's kind of hard to beat right now. Roll20 is free, so you can get a subscription that'll open you up some extra option, but the game is highly playable on the free level.
Now, gaming online, it is a little bit different than gaming in real life because we're at the point now where whether we like it or not, if we want to keep gaming, as gamers, we're going to have to dip our toes into this format. Mm-hmm. Are there any habits that you see that need to be changed while playing online?
Well, yeah. Absolutely. The biggest one is the one that a lot of people, when they play their first online game, will complain about that, oh my God, it's so noisy and I can't hear anything. Now, there's one, when everybody's sitting around the table, the GM looks at one person and speaks to that person, they understand each other. Well, all the other players around the table, someone can turn to another guy and go, "Hey, man, should I use a magic missile or should I go ahead and use a burning hands here?" And they go, "Oh yeah, burning hands is way better." But these guys are, there can be side conversation going on. When you go online, there should not be that. You should be, try to keep to yourself and the GM as much as possible, or let one person speak at a time. We have some chat channel. Use those. Type it down. Hey, whatever you want to make a joke or your character is doing something stupid that's not part of the main action of what the party's doing, go ahead and type it down. Everybody will have a good laugh at what you're doing. But, you're not going to break the flow of the GM who's trying to tell the story. So that's really the big one that I found online is, keep the voice channel clean. So, everybody can crack a joke once in a while, but once everybody starts talking, then nobody hears anything. It's just a garble of noise.
Sure.
That's the big one there.
You actually are much more than just a GM. Tell our listeners a little bit about First One's entertainment and your involvement in this.
All right. Well, First One's Entertainment, or FOE for short, is a company that I started back in 2013 when I was working with another publisher, LPJ Design. He was kind of going in one direction with the product. I wanted to run the organized play for his stuff, and we so I initially licensed his settings and kind of got it going and got it off the ropes, and eventually we parted ways, and then I started writing my own settings and just publishing them myself. So now we have 3 settings, and we kind of have 1.5 that's kind of in the works right now, but they're, you know, that's what First One's Entertainment is. So it started off as a small organized play, and now it's basically a straight publishing company. I don't. I love the organized play format, but it's not. The people who love organized play typically will have their 1 or 2 organized play that they really love, and trying other things, they're not so big. So what I decided to do was kind of more or less ditch that aspect and just write adventures and run them for people. So I've had good success, and that's really been, it's really been fun to do. So that's what we're doing now. Gen Con is coming, hopefully. Please, Jesus, give us Gen Con. And at Gen Con this year, right now I'm planning to have the biggest showing for First One's Entertainment ever. We're going to have effectively 3 or 4 tables at every slot of the con, except Sunday. I'm not going to risk that one. But the rest of the con, we're going to have 3 or 4 tables running at the same time. That should be huge, and I'm really excited to do that. In fact, I took a break from writing the Gen Con adventures to get online and chat with you on this.
Nice. Well, where do you get your ideas and inspiration?
Well, basically, I'm a history nerd. I love reading about history of basically everything and all kinds of people. And from there, kind of evolve it into gaming. So marry 2 of my loves together. But I'm not here to give people a history lesson, which is the bad lesson that I learned in the past. That I'm pretty sure that a lot of I think they still consider me friends. I learned that people don't join RPG campaigns to be taught about something. They want to be entertained. And if they learn something while being entertained, great. It took me a lot of time to put that 2 and 2 together. And that, most of, that's the big one I get to. I go to history. Okay, so for example, one of our settings, Akhmet, is based on ancient Egypt. Well, it is based on ancient Egypt, but it is not ancient Egypt. It takes here. What are some of the elements that made Egypt Egypt? And then, they love the routine. There's a desert. There's flooding. There's crocodiles. Okay, so some of these elements I want to pull into the game setting, and just roll with that. For example, in rhyme is very much like a kitchen sink. So by kitchen sink, there's kind of everything in there. But say for example, one place is very much inspired by like Western Europe. One place is very much inspired by ancient China. One place very much inspired by kind of an Arabic caliphate, or the Achaemenid Persians. Mishmash with, that's a very simple way to put it. There's always mishmash with some flavor into something else. So that's really where I go to. And as well, the other one that I really get a lot, mostly for the adventures that I write, it's going to sound, some people look at me strange when I say this, but I love watching daytime talk shows. Dr. Phil and Maury. People are like, what? Dr. Phil? What I'm looking for are strange characters or people who are odd in some ways. And then in my writer's mind, I like to say, okay, well, what if this person, for example, take one character that sticks out, but somebody who's afraid of pickles, All right, well, what if that person was suddenly put in a D&D setting and have to do something with a strange, crippling fear of something very odd, or odd for, D&D setting. I don't know. They're afraid of goblins. Well, go ahead and take that thought experiment as far as you can go. So, looking and guessing at, strange people, you are not the father is awesome. I mean, if you ever see Maury Povich, it's a baby mama drama show where, he's not my baby. Yeah, you're the father. And it turns out, well, you're not the father. Okay, so those stories are they're sad, to watch, entertaining at the same time. But then when you go to a D&D setting, well, how does that impact? I mean, now you have say a duke who's not sure if his son is really his son for some reason, or he accepts the fact that his wife kind of strayed on him. Those kind of things that, human conditions and the human heart and human story make for great RPG material.
Yeah, that's interesting. When you put it in those terms, it does make sense. Totally. So give us an idea. How do you go from idea to product? Roll us through the steps.
Well, there's a lot of time, but basically I start with an outline of kind of what do I want to do? What am I planning on doing? What am I thinking on doing? What's my inspiration? For example, if I take Akhamed, the last setting I had, I had lost my job as a surprise. Came in Monday morning happy, and at 9 o'clock I was home. What's going on? And so, of course, as I'm working very hard to find myself a new job, all these I saw on TV some engineering the empire of Egypt, and I was reading some comic books. I think it was something with Thor that had some ancient Egypt storyline to it, and like, wow, what if I could come up with an idea for this? And so I started, actually in this case, writing an adventure. I decided, well, I just want to write just like an adventure series. So the characters go from like level 1 to level 12, and as they go through, they'll encounter a whole bunch of difficulties, and that's it. And so I started with that. And then, okay, so let me start. So where you start? So we start in this town, and you get to see this. Oh, well, hey, I would need, what would be a good god for this character? Oh, Horus. Horus is a good one. Okay, and then I, kept building it up from there. The thing is, I could talk about that one till tomorrow. But in short is, I wrote this, with what do I need to create an adventure, which sounds fairly simple, but, what would I need to create an adventure? Or if I were to set an adventure in this place, what would I need? And from that sounds super simple, but, it allowed me to cut a lot of extra fluff out, and then you go, once your basic outline starts to be pretty beefy and pretty nice, then you start going, okay, well, is there anything that I as a player would want in here or would not want in here? So you look down the list and go, well, you know what? There's only like 3 new races. I think, the Egyptians had, they had jackal-headed people, they had hawk-headed people, they had, cat-headed people. Okay, so
I still look at my original AD&D deities and demigods book, and I love looking through those different cultural sections. Like you're saying, they have the Egyptian section, then they have the Greek section, and you see they're actually they're an idea machine just going down the line of deities.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, I have Legends and Lore. I don't have the deities and demigods, but I have my first edition Legends and Lore still, and even my second edition one, because I I actually like the art in the second one a little better than the first one. But yeah, those books are great. I mean, just you want to set up something, you know. All right, think of a basic concept of party must save damsel in distress, right? So we're talking the most basic of story here. So you're going to travel across land, and then you're going to go into the castle, beat the bad guy, rescue the girl, and everybody comes back and live happily ever after. Simple. Now,
yeah, when we look at the old school games, they tend to be dungeon crawls or rescue missions, something of that sort.
Yeah. But again, I mean, they still work. I mean, if you put a party, people will go, yeah, okay. Oh, we need to go and save the princess? Okay, sure. Oh, what do you mean? Oh, we're going to go and save the village from the bandits?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Those are basic stories. Now you take that basic story.
What do you do with those basic concepts and put your own unique twist on it? What is your secret?
Well, I mean, for example, if you go and take, if I'm going to go and put it into, say, a Japanese setting, so ancient Japan, the warring provinces era. Okay, well, what are the elements of that era that would really make this adventure different? Or would give me something else than just the basic outline. The basic outline will work everywhere. So so in the case I go traditional Japan, well, you have to deal with ancient clan loyalties. Is she of an enemy clan? Because then if you rescue her, well, now she becomes a hostage, and then the political situation changes for what's going on. Is she an envoy of from the emperor? If we go more fantasy, was she like trained in military tactics? Was she who that thing becomes? What the castle looks like? How do the peasants are going to react to you as you travel through the land? Those are things that I start thinking about there. If I'm going to go to, say, ancient Egypt, well, at that point, there's the desert. So you're going to go across the desert to go somewhere. So immediately, instead of just kind of crossing an area that's fairly safe, now the environment works against you. The environment becomes part of the story. I mean, you cannot differentiate it. At the same time, if you go, I don't know, what if you go and set it up in super swampland? Well, again, that becomes the environment becomes a reason for adventure. It's one of the things that I like to call, I took this from Pathfinder, but it's what I call the Taldor test. Now, Taldor is a nation in Galarian and Pathfinder that's fairly generic. I mean, in short, Western fantasy type. So I like to do what I call the Taldor test. If just by changing the name of where you are and you could put that in Taldor, you fail the Taldor test. But things you can't, if your adventure cannot be into Taldor, it tells you that your setting, where you're setting it, is important. You're going to Antarctica. Well, Antarctica, like a big part of the challenge, is the environment. It's that freezing cold everywhere. I mean, well, you got to deal with the cold. You can't put that in Taldor. At that point, the challenges becomes meaningless. The same thing as, if you're going to go to some like jungle or something like that. So the Taldor test does not tell you if something is good or is not. It tells you is the place I'm setting it in pretty unique to this adventure. So, again, taking the trip, from point A to point B. Well, if I put it in a Greek setting, well, now what's unique about the Greeks? Well, the Greeks are very humanist. They're very hero-centric. So, of course, you're going to go there and rescue the princess because you're a hero. And then, because of that, well, you're going to marry the princess, and one of you will become king after her father passes away. Something like that. So then it becomes more than just, well, you got to go from point A to point B, rescue the princess, and live happily ever after. Man, that was a long answer.
It's awesome. It's awesome to converse with someone like you, for a creator, and to help us to get into your mind, and also how you play the game and how you DM a game. These are all great pointers that we could take away from us, whether we are players or game masters. Let our listeners know, where can they find out more about FOE, the First One's Entertainment?
All right. Well, first part is our website, which is foelegacies.com. You'll see the art over there. It's try to update it all the time. It'll give you some of the books that are coming. So foelegacies.com. And if you look for First One's Entertainment on Facebook, we do have a Facebook group that is more or less active. It sees bursts of heavy activity, and then it's kind of quiet. But basically, when I'm writing a lot, it tends to get quieter, and then it gets more active. We're going to get into the season now where we're going to get a lot more active, because now I'll be running some games before Gen Con, and after Gen Con, just running them for other people. So those are all things that I'm really looking for. So First One's Entertainment, search for us on Facebook. I'm not, if you want to look for me, I'm JP Chaplow everywhere. Typically, if there's a Chaplow, it's most likely me or some city somewhere in northern Ontario.
Well, we're going to put a link to these in our show notes as well. In closing, because now we're all trapped in our houses, we're going to be gaming online. Yep. What can you say as words of encouragement for those who are not used to gaming online? How can we embrace this medium now, us old school gamers?
Give it a little bit of time. Give yourself time to get used to whatever tool you're going to be using. You want to get into the game. You want to get the going. You want to roll. You want to do stuff. Give yourself some time. Get used to them. And that's really the big thing. If somebody really hates, Skype, well, try Hangouts or try Discord. If somebody really hates Roll20, well, try, Map Tool or, some other ones that I'm not sure which one it is. But you can do, D20 Pro, or you can do Fantasy Grounds. There are other ones that you can try out. Find out the ones you want, the ones you like, and then work up from there. But again, take it slow, and after there's a little bit of usage, you'll get used to it. You'll start, well, maybe not loving it as much as face to face, but it'll give you your fix. So you'll stop having the shakes. Give yourself the time. If you're a GM, give your players the time to don't run that mega complicated encounters with, the 4, 3D rotating, platforms and the waterfall and the, just go simpler for a week or two while everybody just gets into the groove of this and, gets used to, talking along one channel only. And how do you do the dice rolls in the, whether you do them on your own or you do them in the chat, as you start getting used to that, give yourself that time and it'll be worth it.
JP?
Yes, sir.
Thanks for the words of encouragement, and we
Anytime.
look forward to continue supporting your projects in the future.
Yeah, man. Thanks. Thanks, everyone. So, I mean, be seeing you guys. It was great talking to you.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and join our Facebook group. Live long, and may the Force be with you. Nanu Nanu.